Good evening. My name is Gabrielle Minoff, and tonight I will be talking to you about um, the literary theory and the critical theory, but specifically critical theory. So, with literary theory, it's defined as different ways critics see and talk about different forms of art and literature. An example of that could be a pair of glasses. Like, if you go around, they don't recommend this, but trying on different pairs of glasses with different prescriptions, it affects the way that you see a story or just life in general. And it's the same way with the literary theory. And then, as for the critical theory, it's defined as examining types of questions that should be posted about literary works, and also with changing society in different ways. And an example of that is because of the Douglas shooting, several survivors are going around with the March for Our Lives, trying to change gun laws. So rather than them standing back and explaining it and having one try to understand it, they're going out there and trying to change society as a whole. So, with that being said, one theoretical mode is critical theory, and then a list of theorists are Max Horkheimer, Theodore Adorno, Eric Fromm, and Herbert Marcuse. And major contributions to the theory paradigm is Theodore Adorno, along with Max Horkheimer, attempted to disprove that randomness and chaos exist in mass cultures. So, how these two gentlemen worked with the theory was Adorno constructed a theory of the mass culture, or also known as popular culture, is an apparatus that recreates these cultures that is very repetitive and also predictable. So, this culture industry, which is a term that they came up with for the production of culture, um, has become institutionalized with the modern mass culture. And they believe that as the process has changed for the good, it's also changed the production of the culture in mass production. So, now with that being said, we have critical theory as a whole is a social theory. And it leans toward, like I said, it leans towards changing society as a whole. So instead of trying to explain it and having someone understand it, and there will always be people who won't understand it. So instead of doing that and being repetitive with it, they it you go out there and just change society and altogether, not just little by little. It does start as little by little because you just can't, excuse me, it's like climbing a mountain. You just don't start at the top. You have to make your way from the bottom, which is the foundation, and work your way up, and eventually you will get there. So, with that being said, um, they're changing it as a whole. And the example I used for critical theory was about the gun laws because of the shooting that happened here in Florida, here in South Florida, in Parkland, because many lives were lost. And this isn't the first time there's a shooting with children involved where it took the lives of several children. These brave students decided to step up and speak up and be the voice for these children who will never get the opportunity to have a voice for themselves or even graduate high school, get to explore the world, get married one day, see life through the eyes of their child. So they're changing society. And while many of us do not agree, we agree to an extent, but the same way you won't have every person in society understand when you're trying to explain it to them and have them understand, is the same way that people will not understand with what you're doing when you are trying to change society. So because they're like, for with the example with gun laws, I personally am going into law enforcement, and a gun is going to be used to save my life if I ever step into that type of situation. And it's used to protect me as well as other civilians. So it's it's a 50-50. But again, you won't have everyone agree, and unfortunately, that's how it goes in life. So, moving on with that, we have critical theory is the structure of mass cultural forms. So, which is like Hollywood forms, jazz, advertising. And this topic is a hot topic, especially in that kind of industry and whatnot, because like musical chords and musical notes, you'll hear them over and over and over again in all different types of songs, and not even songs, but like whatever it may be. And because you're receiving positive responses from the public, it's copied over and over and over again because they see, like, wow, the public is really liking this and we're getting very good reviews. So let's just copy it, change it a little bit, add more stuff to it, modify it, excuse me, and then put it back out there again and have the public go crazy over it. So, one story that I read this semester that goes back to, that intertwined with critical theory, is A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. So, A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, we have the two main characters who discover this homeless man with enormous wings. And they thought that this gentleman would be taking their sick child back with him up to heaven. And instead of taking their child up to heaven, he healed their child. So instead of sitting there and trying to explain to the public or different people in society the miracle that this man created for them, and have these people be like, did that really happen? Are you sure you're not going crazy or whatever? They put him in their chicken coop and started charging people to come in and see him and heal them. And all these people got to witness the same miracle that he performed on their child. So it just goes back to that, where why sit there and understand, like, why sit there and explain it and have someone understand it when you could just change society as a whole and have everyone be healed and not have any problems and let them experience it for themselves. So, yes, have a good night.